We welcome you back to the Formula Racing League. We return back to more British Touring Car Championship action. As we return here to Donington Park, this time we're darting through to the Grand Prix layout this time. Previously we went on the shorter layout, but for round 7 out of 10, Donington Park is often touted as one of Britain's most valuable motorsport venues. And quite a challenge we're going to see these drivers here navigate through here for these 14 laps in the 3 races. Hello everyone, welcome to the live coverage here. Remco de Zeo is here in the broadcast directing side of things, hoping nothing goes terribly wrong, but we have our utmost faith in him. Lorenzo Etovic just joins alongside me, who is probably the commentator that has appeared most out of these FRL races. But Lorenzo, how are you? I'm sure you must be excited for the race here at Donington.
I am, and thank you for that very lovely introduction, Amir. No, yeah, we saw Donington at the beginning of the season, and it was a fairly good race. We're now at the Grand Prix layout as well, which includes the Melbourne hairpin. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's a small addition, but I think that addition will prove quite a vital change, possibly, in terms of who finishes where compared to the national layout. And as you can see, qualifying is usually 10 minutes, but we have gone live a bit later than usual. So we've only got about 2.5 minutes left. And so far it is Carlo Messina on pole, provisionally, which I think is the first time that Callum Wilson is in very, very high danger of not being on pole position for the first race here.
Possibility though, but he's certainly looking to put out all the stops here. He's been pretty good in his qualifying performances, as you said, but for the purple in the first 2 sectors and through to the final corner at Goodhart's, will just very graciously tap on the curbs just ever so slightly, and this could be a strong lap time for Callum, and indeed it is going to be him taking provisional pole once again, and the BMW seems to have cemented their way up and top, but we'll see how Messina will respond. He's been very good actually, Lorenzo, especially during qualifying, and he's certainly put his race paces very strong here. Could this be a sign that Messina might have some sort of emergence in the final few races?
I think there is a very high chance that Messina, if he does stay in the same pace in the races as well as in qualifying, could peel away further from Alan Smith in that front-wheel drive championship, because the gap between the two of them after Knockhill is just 1 point, with Messina currently first and Smith in second on 164 and 163 points respectively. Dave Goodway in third is in far even on 150 points. But I don't think Carlo Messina is going to improve on that lap, and I think even if he does stay second place for the first race here, that would still be a much more desirable position for himself, as he would be in front of Smith, who is currently in third, as we saw Jason A. Taylor there in the second of 4 BMWs today. I think that's the most BMWs we've seen in one round this season. Going round, Goddard's currently 9th, and Taylor stays in 9th with just 20 seconds left on the clock. Will be a question whether he improves. Carlo Messina, who wanted to continue on talking about, he's gone purple in sector 1, meaning he can still challenge Callum Wilson, despite the fact that the Britons increased the gap from 1/10 to 5/10 now. I think there's still a high chance that Messina can challenge him fairly strongly for pole position here, especially with the slipstream he's getting off of the back of that could be a BMW, I think, in front of Messina, although he is yellow in sector 2. No, apologies, that is a Honda, meaning that should be Daniel Irwin, as he is the only Honda here today. Could also be Carl
Messina landed, I think.
Yeah, it does look like so, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did, and that would call it to quits. I think he was just so looking forward to that slipstream, but I think he realizes once it comes a bit too quick, then he called that laps quits, and again 5/10, that is so massive. Wilson will seem to be taking another pole position into his accolades, but I think the biggest surprise here is usually in tracks where Wilson does, oftentimes the rear wheel drivers would also kind of follow through with similar performance, but Brewster and Taylor, who are both in the same machinery as Wilson is in, are struggling in actually 7th and 9th. So is this going to be a bit of a problem that we'll see Wilson in these next 3 races, do you think?
That is a good question. I don't think there have been any issues for him in the previous Donington race, although that was at the national layout. He's yet to lose a race on track this season, Callum Wilson. So it will be interesting to see whether he does so today. But at the moment, it doesn't look like anyone is that close to him. But speaking of closing down, Jason A. Taylor did move up to 5th place while we were talking about him. Kieran Dixon, one of the debutants here today, has improved his lap time, but I think he has stayed in 17th place. And there appear to be quite a lot of debutants here today, but none of them have been able to topple Callum Wilson, as we can see, still on pole position. His 7th pole position of 7 possible this year so far, with Carlo Messina, his closest competitor, in 2nd place, 5/10 down. Alan Smith in 3rd place. Chris Wilkinson, the highest placed debutant this season, I think. Oh, well, for today at least, in that Vauxhall. Jason A. Taylor in 5th place. Kai Allisbrook, yet another debutant, in 6th place. And then the first Speed Eagles of Mars and Morrill in 7th. Dave Brewster in 8th, Sam Cree in 9th, and Flynn Hewson, yet another debutant in yet another Cupra, in 10th place. In 11th place, Tom Brunel, Arthur Drobnik in that 2nd of 3 Speed Eagles in 12th, followed up immediately by his teammate in Milos Cherzan. Stu Rogers in 14th, yet another debutant in a Cupra, Doug Wickens 15th, Johnny Sutton 16th, Kieran Dixon and Carl Struhaus 17th and 18th, both debutants and both in Hondas, Daniel Irvin in 19th, and then last place without a set lap, Pedro Sal in that 4th and last BMW for today. So a 20 car field for today. Higher numbers than the past couple of rounds. For the past 2 or 3 rounds we've had numbers teetering around the 14 to 18 mark, and we're finally back up into the 20, so that's very lovely to see as well, Amir.
Certainly is, and definitely for a track which can facilitate like 20 cars. I think Donington, is somewhat up one of them. It is notoriously pretty narrow. In fact, it's quite narrow in terms of a FAA Grade 2 circuit in comparison to the other sort of tracks, especially to the ones that we've raced at. But again, Donington does bring its challenges. The previous time that we've been here, as you've said before, Lorenzo, the international layout brought in quite a different challenge than it does here. And especially, as you said, the inclusion of the Melbourne hairpin means that these drivers will have to set up their cars vastly different. I think another important one is what's previously like 9 and 10, which would have been the penultimate corner in the international layout, is now a really, really fast chicane at this point, leading up to the hairpin. So it kind of like narrows it down, and you can't really go side by side by the hairpin unless if you absolutely give it your one just kind of risk for the other line. So again, really, really big challenges, especially for the people that drive for Donington. It's going to be a new challenge with that hairpin.
Absolutely. The thing with that Melbourne hairpin, though, there is quite a lot of space, but it is also shaped quite unusually, if you could say so, because it's a bit squared off the further wide you go. It's not really rounded off, so there is a bit more space on the wider line, but that also means if you try and make a move on that wider line, on the exit you will get closed off, and that could potentially lead to some incidents. And we saw some incidents in the real-life Donington Grand Prix as well in BTCC this past week, and into the Melbourne hairpin. It was... I can't remember who it was now, which is a bit... I'm a bit embarrassed to say that, to be quite honest. It was Lewis Gilbert, yes. Lewis Gilbert, and... was, I think, Tom Chilton who was involved in that, but Lewis Gilbert was the person who went barreling forwards into the Melbourne hairpin, luckily unharmed. But no, the Melbourne hairpin, I think the addition of it on this layout will produce some things we wouldn't have seen on the national layout through the Fogger TSs. It would be Roberts on the national layout.
Yeah, you were right. It was Tom Chilton and Lewis Gilbert. That was, I think, a very horrific crash. I think it might be the most horrific that we've seen in recent memories. But yeah, apart from the Melbourne hairpin, which again poses a challenge, I think the other interesting thing is also turn one. I reckon turn one in Donington is probably one of the more rather unique ones because it's not like a fast corner like we've seen other tracks, but it's also not a slow corner either. So much so it's not quite an overtaking zone, but it's still the lead off of the start finish straight into turn one. So it can be a good overtaking opportunity if you dare so. We might see a bit of rubbing, especially coming up through Redgate.
Yeah, because Redgate is a fairly medium speed corner and quite a lot of cars, meaning that if drivers aren't aware of the others around them, we could see some fairly nasty incidents into the first corner, and I think we did see some in the race that was held at the national layout. So whether history will repeat itself or not, we are yet to see, but I think with the downhill section through into the old hairpin, I think even from Redgate down to the old hairpin through Hollywood and the Craner curves, it could be quite interesting to see how the drivers cope with not just the others around them, but just the track itself. Because we do see quite a lot of debutants here today. Some have impressed with their qualifying results, but you know, it's a bit different when it's a race setting.
Yeah, definitely. I can 100% attest to that. Warm-up has come through to its conclusion, and well, indeed, for another pole position added to Callum Wilson's repertoire, he still holds the lead in the Real World Championship class, which in this case, if you're wondering, the classes we split it between front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. So the rear-wheel drive consists of just the BMW 330E, which again he's got his pole on, and the Infiniti Q50, which there is no cars in that one today. But basically, the BMWs are on the rear-wheel class, and then everyone else is in the front wheel class. Messina, it's very important that he got second place, Lorenzo, because he's currently in a 10 spot between himself and Smith, and that points difference is only just one. And that can really make all the difference here. A good qualifying position could set off the bat for a really, really good race. A race triplet, if you will. And again, super for him. Also important for Goodway and Papadopoulos themselves. I think Goodway's only about a point away from at threat of losing that position to the Greek driver, so we'll see how he musters as well. And then Marcel Morel, I think he's here as well. He could get some really, really good points to really booster his chance for a battle for the top three. So again, lots of ways this could happen, Lorenzo.
Marcel Morel, obviously, possibly the biggest gainer today if he plays his cards right, because Papadopoulos and Goodway in front of him are not here. And there is a 20-point gap between Morel and Papadopoulos in 4th and 5th. And then another additional point between Papadopoulos and Goodway, meaning if Marcin Morel can gain 21 or more points, he will shoot up from 5th to 3rd in the standings. And Goodway not being here means that he's going to lose that 13/14 point gap on Smith and Messina in front. But enough about the championship. We've got the race here to focus on and see who is going to finish where following this round. And Callum Wilson has closed off Carlo Messina on the entry to Redgate, which has caused the Italian to lose P2 to Alan Smith. So what we were talking about Amir immediately happens at the start. Carlo Messina slow off the start yet again and allows Alan Smith to go up into second, meaning Smith, as it stands, will go up into first in that front-wheel drive championship.
Yeah, that's very important there for Smith, and especially the best start that he's had. He's now going to gap the ways he must possibly can. Has already got 4 tenths now, but Wilson, I think, is slowly extending that gap over some more, and he's going to have me take the win. There was like Ward drives that for the inside, makes contact with with Tom Brunel, and they both go off, and it's absolute calamity in the second sector on the exit out of McLean's. I think they both managed to join just fine. That could have been almost horrible. I think that's Sam Cree, who's suffering, I think, a very, very bad internet issue, Lorenzo, and I wonder if that's maybe just an internet more so than just a driving error.
Yeah, it does very much appear like Sam Cree is suffering very heavily from internet issues, and I think that might have influenced the crash between himself and Morel more than anything else, and it is a shame that it happened so early on. No, it does look like Cree did just drive into the back end of Morel, and then Morel in his desperation to try and correct the car, sort of doored into the side of Creed, and that somehow settled both of them enough for them to both go off into the ground. Well, looking back at it again, Morrill did door Sam Creed, but it was into his rear left tyre, causing Creed to spin across him and Morrill to go into the gravel. So ultimately both red flags at different points of the incident, so whether there will be any penalties or not after the races, I think that's down to the stewards, but they're now both towards the back. Sam Creed actually climbing up to 40th and Morrill still in 17th. Going back towards the front again though, Chris Wilkinson here, as we can see, fighting with Kyle Alisbrook. So the two debutants putting on a good show for P5 at the moment to me, and they are yellow flags. I think that might have been Pedro Sa who caused the yellow flags, because he has dropped down to 20th, and Daniel Irvin is also dropping down. He's dropped down from 14th to 16th, and it's dropping down to 17th as well. We can see there, overtaken by Artur Drobnik, and there's Fred Hughes, and I think that is Pedro Sa in the gravel yet again. He is struggling here, Pedro Sa, in that BMW, and you don't like to see that really with a debutant, but I mean, not much can be said. Clip up the grass through Craner curves, and has he managed to stop it before the barriers? He has. The gravel has helped. Gonna be hard to continue with those tyres. They're definitely short, but he hasn't got any damage from the tyre barrier, so silver lining, I suppose, for the Portuguese driver. Not quite sure, but it is a very Portuguese name.
He still continues on. Lap 3 out of 14. We've already seen quite a plethora of incidents, but nothing really too serious at the moment. Morrill, who we were touted as an opportunity to get back into the top 3, not exactly the way how he wants to start, but he's making his way through the field regardless. He's still 14th and still could be on quest for some pretty good points. But we're looking over here with Kai, who's doing his best to defend himself from Tom Brunel, who's always been pretty capable and has always found himself comfortable in the top 10, but he could be ranging for something a little bit higher in what has been the most populated that FRL BTCC has seen in recent memories. And we're going to look over here. They're coming over to the longer straight now. The chicane going to be up ahead, and Brunel, I think, could be in a favourable position if he could be late on the brakes, but he's not going to close the speed quite enough. I think Wilkinson might be carrying a little bit more speed than Brunel is, and that's how he's managed to gap him into that chicane. We've already got a yellow in the second sector. Where does that come? Further back, we're seeing something a little bit similar though between Dixie. He's going to hold on to the inside line, and he's going to try his best to fight on with Morrill, but Morrill does his absolute best to kind of counteract that, I think, or is that Dubrovnik, as we'll see heading into the Melbourne hairpin for the first time. We're going to see if Dixon can maybe use the wide line to his advantage, looking for a switchback, unable to do so. Dubrovnik makes his way and still holds on to P15, Lorenzo.
Yeah, absolutely lovely battle there between Drobnik and Dixon, and no, yeah, it was absolutely lovely, and it did look like Dixon took more of the curb on the inside through the Fogarty S's, but he did not gain the position in the end, and Kyle Alisbrook going back to this battle between himself and Chris Wilkinson. He has managed to somehow push his way into that 5th place, but Chris Wilkinson is still there, and these two are still going at it. Absolutely lovely show that these two debutants are putting on. And you mentioned Tom Brunel. He is 2 seconds back, but if these two continue fighting the way they have been so far, it might allow for the Belgian to close in on them and did get involved as well. And looking behind, Dave Brewster isn't far in that BMW either.
Yeah, what a move there by Wilkinson into turn 7, and he'll happily take P5 off from Ellsbrook at the moment. You can see from the back that's Brunel, but he's going to become under pressure from Brewster. I think that was, oh my goodness me, that is Sherzan. That has gone wide, hits the sponsor board, and rejoins back onto the Starkley straight, but loses a ton of speed and momentum, but I think we'll still be lucky enough to keep P11. That was, it could have gotten worse for Milos, but he's lucky to still continue, Lanzo.
Yeah, absolutely, and moving a bit further up yet again, Jason A. Taylor trying to push his way past Carlo Messina into 3rd place through Goddard's, and manages to do so. It looked a bit dodgy with Messina basically being pushed out of the way by Taylor, and I don't think the Italian will be happy with that. But Jason A. Taylor, as it stands, into 3rd place, and that's going to drive a further wedge in between Smith and Messina in that front-wheel drive championship battle, as Sam Cree, who fell down early on in the race in the first lap, still suffering from internet issues, and now pushes past Doug Wickens through Redgate up into P9. That looked equally as disrespectful from Cree towards Wickens as Taylor's move did on Messina, and I think that's going to be another point of contention for the stewards after this round is over. And I do doubt Doug Wickens is going to be pleased with that, but at the moment he's got Marcin Morrell behind him who's got to worry about, and he can't really do anything about Sam Cree, who's slowly peeling away. It's already a 2-second gap between the two of them.
Yeah, Morrell's done very well to make his way back up ahead. That was a bit unfortunate what we see between Cree and Wickens, but Wickens still continues on. He's about 1.7 seconds, so he's going to try and claw that back up to Cree and hopefully to make an offense of himself, but we're right on board with Martin. He's going to try and make his way to break into the top 10. Chicane through to the S's could be enough for him. He's going to take down to the inside line, while as Wickens will take through the outside, and Wickens can't really do much to respond. It could be at risk of losing 2 spots at a span of 3 corners, as he's going to go over to the outside line as best to defend from Milos, but Milos hopes it down through to the inside. Wickens going to try and look for the switchback. He is going to try and do it, but I don't think he has enough speed to carry it for uphill, and unfortunately Wickens will call the fight a day for the time being, as he drops down a couple of places, dropped down 3 places in the span of that 1 lap. But we're looking up ahead between Kai and Wilkinson in the battle for P5. Wilkinson just a little bit of a push away, but does give a bit of space, and Kai has to back off, and it will just be Wilkinson that leads into the old hairpin, and Ellsberg is just going to try and look away to see any sort of way he can make his way on past. He's early into the brakes than Kai is. Sorry, then Wilkinson is, and still just using that slipstream up for the uphill for turn 6, down to the hard braking zone of turn 7, a near 90-degree right-hander, followed by another near 90-degree right-hander as well. And yeah, Wilkinson has done very well to kind of hold on to his lead from Kai at the moment.
He has, and further on down, while we missed watching this amazing battle up front, Milos Cherzan, who was in front of Doug Wickens, is falling down yet again and is gone into the gravel yet again. I think he went off into Goddard. He's now gone off through McLean's, so he's fallen from 11th, I think it was, down to 15th in the span of this 1 lap, or well, half a lap really. And we saw Kieran Dixon going to the pit lane as well in one of those 2 Hondas. So something must have happened to him as well, and this is Milos Cherzan going wide, not being able to slow down in time, leading to Wickens, that was Drobnik, and that was Hewson as well, hands to Rogers now.
I think he was trying to go for... And that's for McLean's. I think he was trying to slow down, but then he realized the line I was trying to use to slow down was occupied, and then he just was kind of out of whack and just had no space whatsoever to slow down to make that corner. We'll look ahead between Chris and Kai. This is the battle for P5. They're going to go side by side once again. Through to the first sector, through to turn 3, through to turn 4, though. Kai almost slowly onto the grass. That's Chris onto the grass almost. And he's going for the outside through the old hairpin, and he can't really make a move whatsoever. Kai makes his way back into P5. Another great battle that we've seen between these two, and they're not done yet, Lorenzo.
No, absolutely not. I don't think they're going to be done for quite a while. It's only lap 7 of 14 as Chris Wilkinson misjudges his braking zone and goes into the back of Kai Alesbrook. But thankfully, neither of them are affected majorly, and Chris Wilkinson lets off a bit too late in some breathing room from Kai Alesbrook there, which allows him to open up a gap. It's now 6/10 between the two of them. And Chris Wilkinson, was that a mistake to give him so much breathing space after that? Because I think he's close to being out of Alesbrook's slipstream now, which no, it doesn't appear to be the case. And there's yellow flags in sector 3 again. That's Dave Brewster, who's dropping down behind Sam Cree, behind Marcin Morrell. Something must have happened into Melbourne, as we see Alan Smith overtaking Jason A. Taylor. I think that was for P2. After Taylor got past him for P2 some point in this lap. Carlo Messina, though, is back for revenge on Jason A. Taylor, and I think he might be able to get it because he's very, very close.
We initially touted that maybe Wilson was the only BMW driver that would have been quick here, but no, Taylor has going to seem to follow suit, and he's going to recover from his qualifying position and I was driving the wedge between Smith and Messina, who, keep in mind, are fighting very, very hard for the front-wheel drive championship at the BTCC. Only a point difference separates between Alan and Carlo, so it's going to be very, very important here for how Jason Taylor is going to really properly respond to this, and he's got all the world to kind of make his way past Smith, but time will certainly tell that way as we look on further back. Ellsbrick and Wilkinson exchanging positions once again for P5. We expect to see Brunel, I think was almost to the move for Brewster, but then, as you said, an incident happened in the hairpin, so Brunel seems to be in the clear for the time being, but we're still looking this way. 3-car battle. We're approaching over to the hairpin. Any moves to be made yet between all these 3 drivers in the 3 different manufacturers? No. But Taylor does take a wider line. Is he eyeing for something of an overtake coming over for turn 12? After look over, he's looking over to the inside line, almost has a look, but too far away, and Smith calls his bluff, but does take the wider exit, hoping to make enough speed, and Smith will occupy for the outside line. Here he goes, side by side for the start, finish straight into turn 1. We're talking about how difficult it was to overtake here, but look at this, switch back over, Taylor swings into the inside line, catches Smith by surprise, and surely this might make the move enough for Taylor to get to P2. I think he does so, Lorenzo, in what a fantastic overtake that was from Taylor. Fantastic move.
Absolutely amazing move, but it's not done yet because Alan Smith is still there. Carlo Messina is still there as well. I think there's going to be a move tried, at least by one of them, into the chicane, into the Fogarty S's, and I think it might be by Messina on Smith because he looks to be the closer of the 2 drivers here to the car in front. Although having said that, Messina had a slower exit there through McLean's than Smith, which has allowed Smith to get closer to Taylor, and I think at the end of it, neither of them are going to be close enough to try and make a move, especially because you can see up in front that is Jason A. Taylor closing on a lapped car, and it might be one of Pedro Sa or Carl Struhal who is now going to enter the Melbourne hairpin, and that is indeed Pedro Sa locking his front right, going off into the gravel and not impacting any of them. But Alan Smith was impacted by his own mistake going wide into the Melbourne hairpin, and now through Goddard's. Messina was on the outside lane but lifted off to allow Alan Smith back into 3rd place, so nothing came of that move by Messina, and with 5 laps left now, you do have to wonder when is Messina going to try and make his move, because his time is running out, and it seems like Jason A. Taylor has an easier time peeling away from them than Smith does peeling away from Messina on his own and staying with Taylor.
Smith catching to Taylor is a beneficiary for Messina's charge up ahead. So here's Doug Wickens, who's, I think, overtaken a car ahead. This is going to be for P15, I believe. In fact, no, he's on the charge against Rogers for P14, actually, is through to the final car. Smith and Taylor, I think, exchange positions. Smith's just retake the 2nd place back from Smith, and Taylor has now retaken it back up again. That was from turn 7 from the re-overtake we saw. And who's that gone off? That's Carlo Messina. He's gone off.
Yeah, he's gone off on McLean. Something has happened to the Italian driver, and we're not quite sure what. We saw him in the distance in the gravel, but we didn't see exactly what happened. We're going to take a look at a replay. Now this is Carlo Messina trying to go down the left-hand side of Jason A. Taylor, who gives him a bit of a tap, and that's Carlo Messina straight into the barriers twice on the left-hand side and front end. There's going to be a lot of damage on the Italian's car. It's almost like Jason A. Taylor wasn't even aware the Italian was going to try and stick his nose there. There was space, it was given to him, and then just unexpectedly shut off by Taylor, and I think that falls solely on the Englishman's fault, and we'll be interested to see what penalty is given out for that post-race.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Taylor was not at all aware of where Messina was going to be, and just the slightest bit of contact can just put your car in very different directions, and he's very lucky that Messina can't continue, but we will be assessing the damage, and he's going to hope he can continue. He's only 11 seconds away from Wilkinson, but Wilkinson's already pressure from Kai, who makes the move into turn 1 and will happily take through P5. This is a bit of a relief for Messina to see Kai and Chris continuously battling throughout this lap and forevermore, and that's going to give Carr just a breather room that he ever knows, because he knows that P4 will be in the bag if these two continue to fight. as they navigate through to the old hairpin, as they approach through to the second sector. But if you look from behind Lorenzo, Brunel could be a big spoiler in this battle for P4.
Yeah, we touted this to happen earlier on. I think it was around the midway point of the race, that if Alsbrook and Wilkinson continue fighting, Brunel will easily join that fight. Jason A. Taylor has already gone past. Actually, no, it was Dave Bruce in that BMW who I also said could join that fight, but he's fallen behind Marcin Morrell now, and he's got a gap of 1.1 seconds to the Polish driver. So I think it's going to be between the trio here of Alsbrook, Wilkinson and Brunel, the two Vauxhalls and the Soul Cupra here in this battle, to see who's going to be coming out in P5, as Chris Wilkinson uses the fact that Pedro Sa impeded Kai Alsbrook a tiny bit and makes a lunge into Melbourne and makes it stick. It's P5 for Chris Wilkinson at the moment, and we saw Kai Alsbrook blinking his headlights there and giving a bit of a tap from behind to Wilkinson. I think that tap was unintentional, but the flashing was definitely aimed towards Pedro Sa, and I think if Wilkinson finishes ahead of Alsbrook here, then there will be some choice words from Alsbrook directed towards the Portuguese driver after the race.
We'll have to see. Wilkinson still holds in for the time being, but Alsbrook, I think, definitely has the momentum to maybe go for a lap or two more, and it's not quite done yet. Brunel has gone wide at the Melbourne hairpin, and that has kind of undone the progress that he has made to catch up to this battle for P5, but he's not quite over from it yet. Just maybe another battle or two for another lap or so, and Brunel could find himself back into it. But we're going to look over. Is Kai going to look for the switch back into turn 7? I think he might be looking for so here, and Kai's got no choice but to give him the room that he so desires. He can't quite deny him, but he's just, I think, had better exit there to carry the speed to deny him though through turn 8, and it will be Chris that will exit out through starkly straight in the lead for the time being. Kai's got no chance but to just follow through to the essence here of the fashion Kane. He's going to look for later on the apex. Maybe does he carry a little bit better speed? I think he does, so he's eyeing for maybe a move into the Melbourne hairpin, and we'll see if this move could be the one that Kai cements it, but he can't because Chris, I think, foresee it coming. But he's actually gone for a late apex. Guy's going to look forward for a bit of a switchback though, side by side between these two, approaching over through to the final corner, and Chris does finally put it the end to it though. But Kai's going to have a look over to the inside line. Is there any move to be made here? He's looking for a bit of a touch to the back end. That kind of upsets Chris just a little bit, but not enough for Kai to really make a move at the very least at the moment. He might look for it down into turn 1. We'll have to see. We've seen an overtake happen before between these two, and it's certainly going to be close, but not quite there for Kai though.
Yeah, not able to go on the outside of Redgate on Wilkinson there. As we see, oh, that's Brewster and Cree. And Cree, you can see, even while spinning, suffering very, very heavily from that internet instability today. And I think that might have caused the incident between himself and Brewster, or at least it looked that way from the very little we saw immediately as we switched to Johnny Sutton for some reason. And further up, it's Smith who's gone past Jason A. Taylor, so Jason A. Taylor must have made a mistake going through Coppice or McLean's, because the gap was a tad bit bigger compared to when Messina was still in the fight. And now, entering the final lap, Taylor's going to have to get past Alan Smith, and he might be able to try and make a move on the outside of Goddard's here, because he's got a bit of a run-up. Smith is going to defend it though, and is there going to be enough space for a switcheroo by Taylor? No, he's going to be going down the main straight, entering the final lap, and Taylor's not going to be there for Redgate either. Do you think Taylor can overtake Smith on this final lap?
He's got a lot of opportunities to do it. We've got the old hairpin. We've had turn 1, which you just passed over, and we've also got Melbourne hairpin as well. So Taylor's got a lot of options to do so, and I think he might have the better car. He's certainly been that way. Coming up for a head though, he's making a move for the old hairpin though. Must have caught Smith by surprise with that tap in the rear end, but that could be enough to unstable to allow Taylor to move in through. But we're going to look over for turn 7. A very notorious good overtaking opportunity from here from Jason. Swings it in, holds onto the inside line. Smith Smith is going to clamber in as much as possible can, but no space given on for the X. He's got no choice but to concede, and now it's going to be Smith on the attack and Taylor on the defense. This was the place where they exchanged positions the lap before, and we could be seeing exchange of lap positions against Smith with the inside line. He tries to make it through, but it couldn't quite do it. He's now got to rely on just the slipstream now and hope that will be enough through to the Melbourne hairpin. Through to the Essex chicane we're going to go. Wilson is still leading ahead by 15 seconds, but now for second place. It's all to play for here between Taylor and Smith. We're going to look over through, round for the outside. Smith is going to look over through. He's going to make it to a switchback up against Taylor. Taylor notices it, and also for the inside. No bit of contact though. Smith doesn't see it, and he goes wide. Wilson goes for the line. It's another race win added to his collection for the BMW, and it's Taylor through to the final corner that just narrowly managed to get second place after a grueling fight between himself and Smith at the very last minute, with Messina in fourth and Wilkinson finally manages to beat Alsbrook through to the line, I believe. What a fight, Lorenzo.
Oh, it's still not over yet. They're still about to enter Goddard, and Alsbrook is still slightly there, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Alsbrook to make a move on Wilkinson. And one of the debutants came out on top. It is Wilkinson, but what an amazing fight these two have given us today here in this first race. You can see Tom Brunel in the background as well. He fell off away from those two, but Martin Morrow wasn't able to overtake him, and Sam Cree is falling down on that final lap. He lost P10 to Drobnik right into Goddard, and Sam Cree, who was in the top 10, he's flashing his lights at Drobnik. Something must have happened through Goddard between the two of them. Milos Cherzen, you can see in the background, finishing 12th. I'd like to take a look at what happened between Cree and Drobnik into Goddard's, because we saw flashing lights from Cree. Was there any sort of contact between the two of them, or is Cree just unhappy at himself? I'm very curious to see. You could see Sam Cree flashing his lights yet again at Drobnik, and this is what happened. No, this is after Goddard's. We would need to go a bit further back to see what exactly happened in the final turn. There we go, the wonders of rFactor 2.
Lost the position.
Let's see, that is Drobnik in front. Cree makes a very late lunge, which Drobnik doesn't expect, and Cree isn't able to capitalize on basically dooring Drobnik wide. And
it looks like he gives the
stays
position
in
back.
10th.
It really looks like he gives the position back.
That is also very much possible. I did not follow his pedal inputs, to be quite honest with you, so that is very highly possible. But I would also like to take a look at that from Cree's onboard to see what exactly happened. Obviously Cree has been, again, suffering quite a lot from internet issues, but I think there is still something to be seen from his onboard camera, and we will have a look. Oh, is the server resetting?
Probably.
Server resetting. Never mind, we're never gonna know.
Well, after that, we can attempt to our race results here with, again, the win. Indeed, going to with Callum Wilson, he does win once again. Jason Taylor makes him BMW 1-2. Taylor continuing on his trajectory for another rear wheel drive podium. And it is Alan Smith who will now momentarily take the championship lead away from Carlo Messina after his performance for P3. Messina, with that contact, will lead in fourth, but it's not over quite for him yet. Wilkinson in fifth, with Kai Alsbrook in sixth, Tom Brunel seventh, Marcel Morel, great recovery from him from P15 all the way up to P8, with Dave Brewster also with a summer recovery, manages to go from 11th to 9th, and Arthur DeBartner completes for a top 10 in the Toyota. Following for that into P11, I think we still have the rest of the results as well. Through P11 onwards, I think we had... I don't think we... Do we have it? Yeah, we do have it. Thank you very much, Remco. We do have it. Thank you, Remco. Zachary in 11th with Milos Cherzen in 12th. Flynn Houston in 13th with Steve Rogers in 14th. And Doug Wickens is our last point scorer of race 1. And the fall for the rest, it's Kieran Dixon, Daniel Irwin, Carl Struhal, Johnny Sutton, and Pedro Sa. So that's us for the 20 finishes, the 20 stars that we've had, and we could be seeing something very similar in race 2. Are you very excited for that, Lorenzo?
I am, absolutely. I'm excited for race 2 and race 3. Obviously, race 2 is going to be starting order of the finishing order from race 1, and then race 3 will be race 2's finishing order from 6th down to 15th, randomly generated number, and then we see who's going to be on reverse grid pole from that. So I think obviously race 2, the grid isn't going to be all that much different from what it usually is, if you can say so. Obviously, Callum Wilson's still going to be on pole. You're going to have your Alan Smiths, Jason A. Taylors, Carlo Messina's up front, Tom Brunel's in the top 10 alongside Marcin Morrill. I think race 3 is going to be where it really spices up depending on the finishing positions of this race. So I think despite the fact the starting order is going to be much different than the usual, it's still going to be a very exciting race to follow. If anything, for the front wheel drive championship, obviously with Smith finishing above Basida, that pushes him provisionally into the lead with the first of the 3 races tonight done. And obviously, for the consequences, if you can say so, that is going to bring for the 3rd race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the very interesting thing about like the finishing order that we have here for race 2 is, yeah, sometimes it can be a bit predictable. There's also like a lot of drivers that can really prove themselves. We've seen with Kai and Chris how well that they fought throughout the entire race, but then now they're starting like right behind Messina and Smith, for instance. So again, there's a big possibility they could be, you know, potentially really big spoils to the, shall we say, their front wheel drive protagonists in the championship. And again, it could go a lot of ways. Morrill did manage to recover, and are we going to see that sort of recovery? Will it like mount to maybe a podium here? Like, there's many different ways that you can really predict for how a race 2 can go, even though it is based on the finishing order from race 1. So oftentimes it's usually a quieter race. And then, as you said, for race 3, it gets a little bit more chaotic with the lottery that we have in place.
Yeah, I think, obviously. Well, really, you've just said everything I would have said if I had given myself more time, so I don't think I have anything worthwhile to add on to that.
What's your favorite quarter in Donington?
That's a good question. I think you can't really just pick one, because the track as the entirety of it is really, really good. Obviously, it's not made for every single class of cars, type of cars, series, but I think for things like British touring cars, it's absolutely amazing, as we saw in this first race and as we saw in real life as well. It's hard to pick just one good corner, because all of them are really good in their own right, from Redgate all the way around the lap to Goddard's.
What about you, Remco? He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. Yeah, I agree too. It makes you fly, right, Lorenzo?
Yeah, you could say so.
Flying with excitement.
I mean, Tor Poznan makes me fly with excitement as well.
Oh, Poznan was good. The drivers were on fire.
They were.
It's a joke aside. Good lord. What fun facts do I have about Donington? Did you know it's near East Midlands Airport?
I do, actually. I think there are coaches from the airport to the track, but I could also be dead wrong and might have misunderstood one of my son was telling me when he went there for. I forgot what it was even.
Yeah, Motorsport, what do you call it? The Motorsport Vision, which owns every British track apart from Silverstone. So Brands Hatch, Netterton, Alton, Donington, Cadwell, Bedford, and also Navarre, because Spain is Britain apparently. And also the GP3, GP4, and the Superbikes Championship has their offices based in the nearby Castle Donington Park. which, fun fact, is also where one of the Amazon facilities is in the UK. I know that because every time I order on Amazon, it just says delivered to Castle Donington. I was like, oh, cool.
It's also a fairly, believe it or not, fairly popular concert venue. I didn't actually know that Castle Donington is used for concerts up until I saw it hosted Metallica once, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and the Oddfest too, but most racing tracks are often good music venues. The Mexico Autodrome is also a good one for that. But,
Well, that's kind of
unfortunately,
cheating because it's inside the abandoned baseball stadium. While we're talking about that, the race has gone underway. We haven't even noticed Jason A. Taylor starting from pit lane, it seems. Actually, not even at pit exit. We did see him say that one of his springs in his throttle pedal had failed. So it is a question whether he'll be out on track at all. And we do see we've lost 2 drivers compared to the first race. So we're down to 18, potentially even 17. And we didn't get to see which drivers we have lost. So, no. We aren't quite sure what's happening in the back. Yeah, we're not quite sure what's happening in the back either. That's Johnny Sutton and Kieran Dixon, I think, who have been involved with one another.
I mean, the big surprise as well is Messina again continues his poor run of starts. He's already dropped 2 positions. So Chris and Kai both into P3 and 4 respectively, and they could be on the right of the end tail of Alan Smith. We'll see if Sutton and Dixon will require repairs to go into pits, because that looked pretty horrible out from the old hairpin. But it's Wilson that still leads. And he's about 9/10 coming over a second already. It could be an open and shut case, just similar to what we've seen previously in race 1, as we see Smith coming through behind. The important thing that he needs to do is just keep the gap between himself and Wilkinson. Otherwise, he could be roped into a battle between Wilkinson and Ellsberg. The question is, Lorenzo, considering how much that Wilkinson and Ellsberg has fought in race 1, are they going to form a brief alliance together in order to rope Smith back in? As soon as I say that, we may not say that because Kai and Chris might be battling here.
No, I don't think that'll happen. I think they're both gunning for their own personal glory here and just setting aside their battle to get to Smith. It would be smart, but I don't think it's what either of them wants. I think both of them want to have a go at Smith themselves. But the longer they keep going at each other, the longer it's going to take for them to catch up back to Smith, because the gap is now 1.1 seconds. And while we're talking about that, there have been incidents further back through Goddard's. There are a lot of people involved, as we see Alice Brook squeezed there through the old hairpin by Wilkinson. That's allowed Messina in that other Cooper to catch up to him. Carlo Messina now goes up into 4th through McLean's and makes it clean, but Alice Brook's still there, but not enough to try and make a move back up into P4. Messina stays in 4th, but that's allowed Wilkinson to peel away a bit further. It's 4/10 now, 3.5 between Messina and Wilkinson. Obviously Messina still in the slipstream, but Wilkinson, and that's Wilkinson off into the gravel and back down to 5th, possibly 6th as well if Brunel is lucky, and he might be. Yes, but he is. Brunel up into 6th place as well. No, 5th place. Wilkinson down to 6th. And Morrill seems to be there as well, and Morrill might have caught him up as well. I think Morrill up into 6th place. Wilkinson has struggled thoroughly through this 3rd sector here on this 2nd lap. He's fallen from 3rd all the way down to that 7th now. And what was it? Just personal errors? Just a streak of bad luck?
Yeah, it just looked like carrying too much speed through that corner. Just couldn't quite recover enough in time. So that's just pretty unfortunate there for Wilkinson. But I completely believe he is capable of getting a few positions here. But Morrill, who's currently into 6th, he's been on the podium a bit before. He's kind of on the same edge. We'll look for the replay to get a proper understanding of Chris's position, and maybe seems to be a bit of over-rotation, to be honest, for that chicane, and just the weight carried him into that sort of spin. And honestly, he did well to recover as much as he did to keep it pointing somewhat straight. But yeah, you can just see there, he's already turning the wheel very much here. And I think it was quite slow to recover in time, and there's just a moment where you can just about recover. You just do not have the track or the space in order to do so. And unfortunately, that's what made him lose that many positions as well. This is back further ahead between Dixon. Oh, and he just loses coming into the hairpin and just bang hits one of the Vauxhalls. It was Dixon. It was one of the other ones. I forgot his name already. But yeah, big contact there. And Dixon did come in for the pits, but yeah, it was Rogers who he hit, so I think he does stay out though for the time being. We'll look over ahead to Wilkinson, who's making his way past through Tom. This is going to be his first overtake since making that mistake, but he loses outside of the final corner, which is quite unusual for Chris, but does continue on ahead, and we'll try and look for another way to get past through Tom with some other way.
Yeah, Wilkinson is struggling really hard in this second race, inexplicably after seeing him in the first race, and it is very surprising. Obviously, a debutant, so an unknown driver for both of us, but to see him perform so well in the first race, only to struggle so hard in the second, this comes as a bit of a shock. And if he stays struggling like this for the second race, I don't really know what to expect for the third race. Especially because, as it stands, he's in 7th place, meaning he can be chosen as one of the drivers for the Rose Grid pole. Whether he will be is a different thing, but I don't know, it's very odd now. The situation that Chris Wilkinson has put himself in the eyes of us as commentators.
Yeah, we'll quite see how this will happen. Roger's still into the pits, assessing the damage. Hopefully he'll be able to continue. Dixon, who's, I think, alongside, will continue. Taylor, with that real hardware issue, I think, is going to retire. The big question is if he'll be repaired in time for race 3. If not, then that'll be a real massive blow, because then Smith and Assetto will kind of miss out one, but we'll see. I think we'll see. I think we'll be very lucky to maybe have.
I have seen. Sorry to cut you off there, Amir. I have seen Jason A. Taylor say in our stream chat that he had tried replacing the spring during the second warm-up and then proceeded to lose the nut, so wasn't able to do so in time. But we'll be back for the third race. So unfortunately, Jason A. Taylor, one of 3 people we're missing here in the second race, alongside Flynn Hewson and Daniel Irvin in the Cupra and Hyundai respectively, as Chris Wilkinson makes his way past Tom Brunel and into the grass through the old hairpin. Can that count as making an overtake and gaining advantage by going off track? I think it should do, because, well, that's the way it came across to me. No?
He already overtook. He already overtook Bernal prior to just going off track. I think no. Like he was already ahead by made the overtake in turn 1 or 2. So.
Sorry,
we'll see how
much closer to me.
You find Brewster on his way for P8 against Dubrovnik, though he'll have the inside line through to the S's, and an overtake for the BMW driver who places his car absolutely perfectly against the Toyota, and Dave is up into 8th in the BMW. So even though Jason H. is a bit gone, we've still got another BMW driver, and he's making his way up for the field relatively a bit easier, but Callum Wilson might feel a bit lonely as being the only top 5 driver in the real wheel category. But Smith, it's not going to be quite easy going for him. He's still a bit under pressure from Messina, who, again, similar to his previous start, did lose a position. In fact, he lost 2 positions to Alsberg and Wilkinson, but ever since Wilkinson has got off and he made an overtake on Alsberg, he's managed to make his way back on the P3, and this could be a very good way to come up from where he left off. And the fact that Smith only got 3rd, losing out to Taylor, means that if Messina makes the overtake against Smith here for P2, I think that will mean that Carl will retake back the championship lead in the front wheel drive category.
I think that should be the case. While going further towards the back, still with the front wheel drive car, but not both of them. Arthur Drobnik is fighting Dave Bruce for that P8 still, so the Polish driver not giving up that easily, but that's allowed Sam Cree, who seems to have fixed his no, never mind, he hasn't fixed his internet issues, but he does seem to still be on pace, and he's flashing his lights. I'm not quite sure why Sam Cree is flashing his lights at Drobnik and Brewster behind, because it didn't look like on our end there was anything wrong with any of what the two in front did. So I really can't think of a reason why SimGrid is flashing his lights. But yeah, he's still very close to the two of them. So I don't know, it looks like Dave Brewster has peeled away through sector 3 here on Artur Drobnik. It's 9/10 now, the gap between the two of them. SimGrid, it is 5/10, but he is well within the slipstream of Artur Drobnik, and I think there might be an attempt at a move by SimGrid on Artur Drobnik through the next 2 laps.
The real problem that he just has is just the latency issue. It's not only hard for the drivers behind, but also it's also really hard as the drivers suffer from that issue as well, because yeah, you can make the move, but there's no real strong possibility, as much as the other ones that are strongly connected, that the car will be as placed in their end as it is on your end, which is kind of why, like, to us it looks like he's just teleporting all over the place, when probably in reality from his eyes it's probably he's just driving as best as he possibly can. And it's very unfortunate, because SimGrid has done really well to be just on the edge of the top 10, but his internet is preventing him from pursuing even further, which kind of really sucks for, you know, drivers that suffer from internet issues. It's you kind of being plagued and you're being held back from properly fighting with other drivers. We're looking up again Morrill, who's again P15 already in race 1. He's now making up his way up to P4 up against Alsberg, and an easy move into the hairpin, and the Toyota driver does so with relative ease, and that'll be the Polish driver who, again, he's very important in terms of Goodway and Papadopoulos, who are not going to be here attending. He's going to try and maximize any opportunity he possibly can in that moment, and what a move that is for him. Alsberg will do his best to maybe find a way to counteract that, but Marson holds him off into turn 1, so good move there by Marson. Will Alsberg be able to challenge more, or will we see Wilkinson and Alsberg continue from where they left off in race 1?
I think Alsberg will be able to challenge Morrill without any debate, but I think the fact that they're going to be challenging each other will just allow Wilkinson to close in on them, and there's going to be yet another three-way fight between 3 front-wheel drive cars, or like for 4th place this time as opposed to 3rd place, I think it was last race. As we saw, Martin Morrill still in front of Kai Alsberg, but Kai Alsberg very, very shaky there through McLean's, and now entering Coppice as well. He's very, very eager to get past the Polish driver here, but can't find an opening anywhere. And I think if he stays as impatient as he is right now, it might cost him dearly, and he might lose more than just 4th place. But going a bit further up, Carlo Messina, who's been in the rear end of Alan Smith for a while, he seems to have closed down the gap even further from what it already was, and it was quite small, under a second. Now it's under half a second. I think Messina is going to be very, very close to an overtake within the next lap, at most 2 as well, Amir.
He definitely needs it, really does, not only just for the momentum for race 3, but just to kind of get back at odds, to mitigate it back to that 1 point advantage that he had, because now he's currently about now I think it's a point swinging to Smith's way, or 2 points swinging to Smith's way now. But again, 2 fights that we're seeing here are Smith and Messina, Moore and Alsberg, and we could be seeing this going on for the rest of the race. But a quick replay, this is back for ahead. That's Struhal, and that's one of the Speed Eagles ahead. Oh, big contact there, and Struhal, I think, kind of a bit surprised how that happened. But a big contact out of turn 7, unfortunately, means that he lost out that P11 position. He does continue on though, and he's very lucky to have enough space that he could recover. Pedro Saab, meanwhile, we saw him struggle very immensely in P20, but he seemed to have taken form for the better, and he's into P13, which is actually really good to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's an improvement on race position compared to the last race, but we have to keep in mind he has capitalized on a lot of people suffering early on with accidents and having to pit. Milos Cherza and Johnny Sutton, Stu Rogers, Kieran Dixon, I think all of them had to pit at some point during this race, and I think that has allowed Pedro Saab some leeway to get up into 13th. But nevertheless, the fact is kept it on the tracks without any issues compared to race 1, might I add. is very nice to see, and I think the Portuguese, if I'm correct, Portuguese driver has managed to get some proper control into the car and find his footing at last. It's quite nice to see, and another driver seems to be finding his footing late on in this race. Dave Brewster has made his way past Tom Brunel there, as you could see, through the final 2 hairpins. I don't think, however, he will have time to catch Chris Wilkerson with 9.5 seconds between the two of them and 5 laps to go, unless something disastrous happens to the pack in front. I think Dave Brewster is gonna go only as high as 7th in this second race.
Because kind of a bit of the midway ground between Morrill and Wilkinson has been catching very gently ever since Morrill has overtaken Ellsberg, so we could be seeing a repeat of race 1. Messina, who's briefly was just 8/10 in the first sector, has now clawed back to about 4.3 in the final sector. Is that Smith a little bit awkward out from the S's? That could well truly be, and that could be a bit of advantage through to Carlo, but he's too far back to make a move into the hairpin. Smith knows that just takes the normal line through to the final sector, through to the final corner left with lap 10 out of 11 out of 14, and 11 out of 14. Callum Wilson is set to record another race win to his accolades, and it's even more of a sizable gap than last time. I think last time he won by about 12-13 seconds. He could be, of course, to win by even a bigger amount. And there's just a real big question is if it's going to be the same that way in race number 3, which he has done pretty well in those positions, but he can also be sometimes cut out sometimes as well by that. We've got a brief yellow flag in the second sector, but no one really seems to be dropping positions. That's Johnny Sutton, who's taken a bit of the sponsor board, and that will allow for Trezan to, I think, make his way on through to, and that's locked cars actually, but it does make his way, it just moves his way out through, and yeah. Oh, he's still struggling though. He's not really quite keeping on track. I hope he's okay.
I would like to see an on-board of Johnny Sutton to see whether there is any damage on his car.
That's
no. Oh, there should be damage. There's definitely damage on that car. He has to be crabbing to some degree, and I think if we go on board with him, we would see his wheel not fully straight. If we can take a quick look.
There it is.
Yeah, no. Massive suspension damage for Johnny Sutton, and just barely keeps it out of the grass on the outside of Goddard's. Yeah, unfortunate for Johnny Sutton, but what can you do, really?
Still looking for the battle between Chris and Kai, though. Back for race 1. Are we going to be treated to a bit of a treat here, Lorenzo, you and I? Because we've seen these two battle very, very well previously in race 1. And they'll probably fight like they've never left. But Chris has got quite a lot to prove. Kai, both also they've got a lot to prove. So we'll see how this goes in the battle for P5. Both give themselves, Smith and Messina, quite a run for their money, as much as I anticipated. But we'll see how this goes. So Morrill into 4th now. He'll be out of the clean sweep whatsoever, but can't quite catch up to Messina. Messina only 2/10 away from Smith, though. But look at this, Chris trying to barge his way over to the inside. Kai was trying to barge into the inside line of Chris, but Chris keeps his now ahead, prevails, and will still lead over through to the S's. A little bit of a barge from Chris to defend his line through turn 7. Kai's trying to go in through to a track which doesn't exist. Has to back off a bit for the time being. Little heartbreak is over through to turn 8, and it is Chris that I think might have the better line, but I think Kai will just about without the dirty air that he prevails, will means that he will take the momentary lead into the S's, and a pretty sizable one from that. But we'll see. Hopefully Kai may be able to carry a bit more speed though. But look at this, Chris goes a little bit sideways again. Could be seeing what Kai had suffered from with, but he does keep it out ahead, but he's under immense pressure from Chris, and heading over through to the hairpin, it is going to be Kai to the inside line, and Chris is going to try his best to fight back. Couldn't quite do so. We're seeing up ahead. I think that was Smith and Messina exchanging positions as well. But Chris, look over the outside line, immediately goes down to the inside line, catches Kai off guard, and Chris will retake P5. A great battle that we've seen here. And in through to the penultimate lap, it is going to be Chris at the time being that leads from Kai. And out forward ahead, Lorenzo, it is between Carlo and Alan from P2. And these are going to go battle side by side. The exit turn 1 through to turn 2. We're going to go through to 3, through to 4. The old hairpin upcoming. It's going to be Messina that has the inside line. Smith is going to try and look for the switchback. He's going to try and look for the switchback. Is it going to be quite close enough? We'll have to see as they approach nearly through to the second sector. But enough speed that Messina has carried means that he puts it ahead of Smith for the time being.
Yeah, Smith thought of a move of a run up into McLean's and didn't work, but Messina went wide out of McLean's, which means Smith is going to have the inside line through Coppice. They're still side by side going all the way through Coppice and going down Starkey straight towards the Fogarty. Yes, Smith is going to have the inside line. In fact, he's going to pull in front of Carlo Messina and he's going to retake back that second place from the Italian driver, although he's still there. He's still going to have the slipstream. Might make a move into the Melbourne hairpin. I don't think that's going to happen though. Messina too far back, and won't happen into Goddard's either unless Smith makes a massive error and goes wide out of Melbourne, which looked like it happened, but Messina didn't carry enough speed, took too tight of a line through Melbourne to think of a move into Goddard's. And going into the final lap, Messina took a tight line yet again through Goddard's to try and make a move down the front straight on Smith. But yet again, Smith carried more speed than Messina, which allows the Briton to stay in front of the Italian. And yellow flags in sector 3, that's Sam Cree dropping. Sam Cree in the gravel in Melbourne. Might lose 11th. No, sorry, might drop to 11th, never mind. Doug Wiggins still 9 seconds behind. But Sam Cree has lost 9th place to Arthur dropping. So something has happened. We can take a really quick look at what exactly happened. That's Sam Cree just suffering from latency issues yet again and losing it on his own. His car doing a bit of a dance as well through the gravel. As we turn our attention to what is important, that's Carlo Messina. That's Callum Wilson. Carlo Messina is 3 tenths behind Alan Smith. We're currently looking at the leader, who's got even a bigger gap compared to the last race. It was 15 seconds, I think it was 16 seconds in fact in the first race. Is going to be 19 in the second race. Absolutely stunning performances here from Callum Wilson. He's again yet to lose a race on track. He hasn't finished below first the entire season in these 7 rounds, and it's just alien behavior really from Callum Wilson. No other way to explain it. But as he wins yet again, we turn our attention back to Carlo Messina, who is still behind Alan Smith but too far back, going into Goddard to try and make a move. Alan Smith is going to keep that second place and is still going to stay in front in the front wheel drive championship. And in the fight between Chris Wilkinson and Kai Alsabrook as well, Alsabrook lost time on Wilkinson somewhere in these last couple of laps, which means Wilkinson got 5th fairly easily. Arthur Dropnik, they're still chasing down Tom Brunel, has taken a wider entry line through Goddard's, but it's not going to be enough for the Polish driver as he takes an advertisement board or 2 with himself across the line to finish in 9th. Tom Brunel, the Belgian, in 8th, and that's Sam Cree in the background, who's going to be flying across the line metaphorically and literally on account of the latency issues. I think not everyone has crossed the line yet, as Sam Cree very eager to go into pit lane immediately. Still waiting on Carl Struhal to cross the line, and I think he's the last man yet to cross.
Yeah, we've got quite a number of people left. Petrosar, who's also sizably behind, I think will also go through to the line, I believe. I think that'll be it. Sharzan and Sutton will finish as our final point scorers. Dixon, Rogers, and Taylor all in the pits. Taylor did not actually finish, but now be it. Callum Wilson makes it through the second race one again, once again here at the Donington Park Grand Prix layout, and a fantastic result from him again. Our 7th round of the championship. There's no signs of him stopping whatsoever. Alan Smith, second place, has managed to defend from a charging Carlo Messina, who dropped 2 places, and that will mean that Smith will hold on that championship lead. That increases to about 4 or 5 points now. right at this moment. So Messina has got all to play for if he wants to try and retake back the championship lead for race 3. Marcin Moll, with his great recovery, continues up ahead. He finishes in 4th. Chris Rickelson and Kai Alsberg, for the great time that they had at the top 3 for a bit, it will be Chris that defends from a charging Kai in 5th, and 6th for them with Dave Brewster. Again, a good recovery from him. He finishes over in 7th for the BMW. Tom Burnell in 8th, and then following through, it is the Toyota Duro. It is DeBrugge that finishes ahead of Sam Krieg. Sam Krieg, who didn't finish into the top 10 in race 1, finishes into the top 10, at least this time round. Doug Wilkins for the sole forward is going to be a points finisher in 11th, with Karl Struhel for the Honda also in 12th. Pedro Sá, who struggled immensely in 20th in race 1, will be P13 in race 2, with Milos Chirzan in P14 with Johnny Sutton. With the damages that he has, he will still be our final points finisher. It is unfortunately goes for to Kieran Dixon and Stu Rogers, the ones that have started the race, will not finish, and Jason A. Taylor, who did not start due to hardware issues. So we were missing a bit 2 people, and with that in mind, we've got race 3 among us, and we'll wait for the lottery results to determine who will be starting on pole. Actually, we've just have it.
Are we?
Yeah, we do. If you look at the chat.
Oh, we do. And it is Karl Struhel who finished 12th in that second race, meaning from 1st down to 12th is going to be reversed. Karl Struhel on reverse grid pole, and running alongside him on the front row will be Doug Wickens, and then going down, Sam Crean 3rd, Artur Drobnik 4th, Tom Brunel 5th, Dave Brewster 6th, Kai Alsbrook 7th, Chris Wilkinson 8th, Marcin Morrell 9th, Carlo Messina 10th, Alan Smith 11th, Callum Wilson 12th, and then 13th down is going to be the same order as the finishing order of the second race, meaning Pedro Sá, Milos Chirzan, Johnny Sutton, Kieran Dixon, Stu Rogers, Jason A. Taylor, and if we have the 2 absentees from the second race, who were... It was... It's a good question, actually. I forgot already who it was. Flynn and... oh gosh, I already forgot. That is very embarrassing.
Hey, you're fine. Don't worry about it. We've got about 3 minutes left to warm up, and that will be us for the 3rd race done. But keep in mind that the championship is not far from over. Honestly, we've still got a handful of races left to go. I think we're slowly coming down to, I think Wilson could mathematically win the championship. I think maybe as early as Croft, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see. But we will be back in racing action after Donington will return in 2 weeks' time. The Croft circuit will host for our 8th round of the championship. Then we're over at the 29th of September, which is 3 weeks from there, to the Silverstone. This time it will be the national layout. So without the what do you call it? It's like the national straight, and then cuts off at oh boy, it just forget about the F1 paddock basically, and you pretty much have the national layout. And then it's our grand finale in our Soul Race in October. It's the place where we finish, and that will be in the wonderful Brad Hatch Grand Prix layout. A fantastic way to conclude our wonderful British Touring Car Championship. But yeah, for this round here, Donington will be the last from where we started. Way back actually in April 21st was whenever we started the championship, right over here at the national layout. And the second race of that was the Indy layout of Brands Hatch. So it's very funny how the 7th round we're making our conclusion here at Donington, and then just a couple of races later we'll make our conclusion of the season at Brands. But yeah, we're ready to get racing through once again, and with all that out of the way, we've got quite a lot of things to really take into consideration, and yeah, we'll see if Wilson can make it 3 in a row again. He's won like what 6, 8, 6, 9, 12, 14, 21, 24. He's won like 24 races, hasn't he?
It could be 25 as well.
Could be 25 as well. Oh boy. Oh boy.
And
This
you did say there is a chance that he might wrap up the championship in the rear-wheel drive category by Croft. Going into this round at the Donington Grand Prix layout, he was leading the championship on 189 points, and Jason A. Taylor in second place was on 153. Now, obviously, Callum Wilson is going to get another 2 wins in there, at least at this moment. And Jason A. Taylor is going to get another 2 second places in the rear-wheel drive category in as well. So, let me just check the scoring again. It is 20 points for first place, 17 for second, 15 for third, 13 for fourth, 11 for fifth, 10 for sixth, 9 for seventh, 8 for eighth, 7 for 9th, 6 for 10th, 5 for 11th, 4 for 12th, 3 for 13th, 2 for 14th, 1 for 15th, and none for 16th downwards. So it's going to be yet another 6-point discrepancy, at least at this moment. And actually, no, sorry, because Jason A. Taylor got... he didn't finish... he finished second in the first race. Then he finished... He didn't drive at all in the second race, meaning he gets no points. So that's 17 compared to Callum's 40 at this moment. So that's another 23-point discrepancy at this moment without the third race being ran, which the driver's about to grid up for. So I think there is also a chance that... No, I don't think it's mathematically correct that he's able to win before Croft.
Not before Croft, I meant on Croft, my bad. I didn't mean to say before Croft, my bad. I think, like, possibly, but it's a really big possibility. And he's already, like, if he wins here, he'll get 250 points. And that's including the drop round as well. And his drop round is all wins, whereas Jason Taylor's non-drop round was basically a non-finish in one of the races. So again, it's just all sways to Wilson's favor, but we'll have to see if he can make a win here. He'll definitely put us to advantage, but it could be advantage to anyone else who could really go with a race win to add to their championship campaign. What you like to see for that moment, as we're going to go green flag racing for one last time. The lights are going to come on. The lights are off and we're on the way. We'll see how Struhel gets a start in comparison to Wickens. We've got a bit of a calamity going on the back, but everyone goes on pretty cleanly, heading over into turn 1. Oh, actually, never mind. Kareem goes a little bit sideways to almost make it 3 wide, and Wickens immediately has to go from behind. Struhel immediately goes wide on the exit of turn 1. He has to rejoin a bit safe and goes a bit collision back from the back. One that has gone into an absolute spin. That's Messina, I think, and it is Messina, and that's got his championship campaign from bad to even worse for him, and he's now dropping all the way back into P20. This seems to be wrapped up for Alan Smith, but he's still calling the P13 and still too early to call. Wickens still holds its lead. Cree has already got for a yellow flag. He's dropping down for the order immensely from P2 all the way down to P15, and there's another car that's dropping over like a 5. Meanwhile, up ahead, Kyle Wilsberg and Chris Wilkinson still continue where they left off. Nothing is going to separate between these two. They're going to be in a battle for P3, and up ahead is Tom Burnell in second, and it's Wickens. Throughout all of that, still manages to lead. So again, big issues that has happened ahead. We've got replays to look for between Cree and Messina later on, but we will go to that in just a very short minute. We'll just have to wait to see how the first lap goes on ahead. Chris doing his best to defend from Kai. They both managing to claw the way back up ahead to Brunel, and Brunel's doing a lot of defending, but we'll see if Chris and Kai could put the differences aside to make their way past on top. We'll have to see. As we look further down behind, we also have to Brodnik and Brewster in exchange of battle for P5, and indeed it will be Dubrovnik that leads ahead of Brewster, and we'll see Wilson already. He's gone from P12 to P6 already. He could be in the way to make even more positions, as he's going to make his way past on his trying to make his way past on his teammate and his manufacturer mate in Brewster. that, yeah, we've already completed through lap 1. Brewster trying his best to eye his way past on to Brotnick. Is it going to be possible? I don't think it will be, and does concede the position over to Wilson. So Wilson up into P6 for the time being, and Brewster at least manages just lose a little bit more position for the time being. Moore was going to hope to make it look 2 positions in the form of 1 sector, but Brewster, I think, could eye this enough to maybe deny it, but no, he didn't quite shut the door enough. And that means that he does lose another position. And Jason Taylor, you can see behind, who suffered from his from the race 2, is making his way up the order into P10 and makes his way past on Smith. Catches Smith by surprise, actually, and a great move into turn 7 means that he will come up ahead Kyle Osberg and makes his way past on Tom Burnell. I think Wilkinson will try his best to eye for it next, and Wickens is going to, he's still holding to lead for at least for the time being, but still going to go to 1 second. Wilkinson is going to follow on from what Osberg has done, and Chris will take P3 as well. So we've seen these 2 ahead, so both of them are going to eye for Wickens. We're looking from behind. That's Wilson who's going to try his way to get past on Brunel. Alan Smith, who's already on the offense, I think that was against Charzan or Brewster, but we'll look over for the hairpin though. Bit of a collision, very, very heavy collision though, and everyone's gone a little bit sideways. It's just a little bit of a clutter. We're still going through the final quarter to see if those positions will indeed cement between Smith and Charzan and Brewster. And oh my goodness me, what dive bomb that was from Charzan, but didn't quite work out at all. Smith will still hold on to P10, so quite a lot of positions going ahead. Pedro Sal's already our first retirement. Irwin is into the pits. Just so much calamity going on Lorenzo. And, well, the big talking about must be is the Hamper Decree and the one with Messina.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see Cree 18th, but Messina's already fought his way back up into 14th compared to where he started. Daniel Irvin, who has come back from his absence in the second race alongside Flynn Hewson. He's in the pit lane down in 19th, but Pedro Sa has become our first retirement of this round today. From the 3 races we had today, we only had, this is the first retirement actually. Cilello flies in sector 2, and we don't see anyone lose time as Chris Wilkinson has tried to squeeze himself past Doug Wickens alongside Kai Alsbrook, but wasn't able to do so. Kai Alsbrook currently in the lead. Doug Wickens looks to retake it though, through that is Fogger TS's, and does so, but Alsbrook's still there and Wilkinson isn't far either, and I think both of them might be able to do so here, and they do. Callum Wilson squeezes past as well, and Doug Wickens loses 3 positions in the span of 1 corner from 1st down to 4th as heartbreak for the Ford man, but Alsbrook and Wilkinson have peeled away slightly because of that from Wilson, and Wickens tried a very desperate move on Wilson, or at least it looked like a misjudgment of braking points, and he stagged Wilson slightly from the back. Thankfully neither of them affected a lot, although it's allowed Brunel and the pack behind him to close in on Wickens. And look at the train behind Wickens now, and behind Brunel as well, as Jason A. Taylor tries to make his move into 5th and does so before the Craner curves and the old hairpin up into 5th, and we saw that is Marcin Morrill in the background who tried to rejoin, hit a bump, and has gone across the grass on the inside of Starkey's Bridge and has dropped from, I think that was 7th all the way down to 13th, and was that taking Messina out, or did Messina just, oh gosh, what is going on here?
Yeah, that's Messina goes from bad to worse. He was on a good recovery up to P13. Unfortunately, it goes bad from to worse. So, well, there's a couple of replays we have to look for ahead. So, did Messina, was a bit of cut out there, or was it a touch of the grass from Messina that caught him out? Oh, that would be very, very unfortunate if that was the case. So, there's Moore making his way on through.
Yeah.
I think it was, because Moore was just nowhere close whatsoever behind Carlo to initiate a spin of some kind, and this is really bad. So this was the replay from what happened in the spot. So this is, is this a collision between the 2 championship antagonists? It might be, and that's what sent Carlo Messina spinning. Contact between Messina and Smith. Was Smith given enough space is the question, or because there's just so much clutter going on ahead. You kind of look up ahead and see the car trying to rejoin, you have to give him a bit of space. because you don't want to risk hitting your car. And what if Messina might have seen that and didn't anticipate Smith being on his blind spot? That's entirely possible. But again, it's just a big struggle for Ko. It's just not exactly. He came in here as a championship leader, and he could exit out well, truly in the back foot, heading into the next 3 rounds. Is not exactly what he wants, especially against Smith, who has done really well in these rounds thus far. But we're looking up ahead between Wilkinson, Alsbrook, and Wilson. Wilson is just. Cemented himself a bit high. Oh my goodness me, that's Charzan who's dropped down ahead. And does he rejoin? He rejoins fine, I think. But yeah, that's just very bad. Just loses a couple of positions. Callum Wilson in admits in an intense battle with Alsbury. This is going to be the battle for P2. The Bullockers does absolutely good to defend, but Wilson barges his way on past through the S chicane. And into second place, he will certainly go, and he's going to nitpick through Wilkinson next, as we're going to Pro Show through to the Melbourne hairpin. There's a bit of collapsing going ahead. That is Wickens, who is momentarily the race leader, who's dropped all the way down to P15, so something has happened to him. I think we're seeing also as well Marcin Morel, who's also dropped down the order as well. So again, lots of incidents up and down from the back, and Strohan and Irwin into the pits as well.
Yeah, we saw a lot of things happen. Wickens down all the way to 15th. Morel has dropped to 14th. Oh, that is Morel and Wickens as well. Down Starkey straight. Wickens very narrowly avoided. I think that was the Cupra of Stu Rogers in front. It might have been Flynn Houston as well. But very narrowly avoids the car in front of him through Fogarty S's. And Wickens could have come out much worse out of that, as well as Morel. We saw Tom Brunel lose a couple of positions as well. He's now down in 8th, behind Drobnik and Brewster. But looking towards the front, Callum Wilson is trying to make a move for first place, and nearly gets taken out by the Hyundai of Daniel Levin, who's clearly struggling after pitting twice already this race. And that was an absolutely terrifying moment, not just for Wilkinson and Wilson, but for Alsbrook as well, because I don't think he had enough space to be able to avoid that and go up into first without any issues. Callum Wilson, though, tries to make a move into the Fogarty SS on Wilkinson, does so but locks up and goes off the track, and it looks like Wilson is letting Wilkinson back through, which is very respectful of him, but I think that's going to allow Guy Alsbrook to make a move as well, and he has done so. He's gone up into second place. He might have been on the outside for Goddard as well, but lost that advantage as Wilkinson closes the room, and then Wilson goes back through on the inside of Goddard. They're still side by side, Wilson and Alsbrook. They're going to be side by side through Redgate as well, depending on who Wilkinson gives the slipstream to, and it looks like it's going to be Wilson who gives the slipstream to, but it doesn't matter as much. Alsbrook has the inside line. There seemed to have been slight contact between himself and Wilson, and it puts Alsbrook into second place for the time being. The question is how big the contact was there between Wilson and Alsbrook for Wilson to lose that position, because it looked like he was quite loose on the exit of Redgate, and I don't think Wilson will be quite pleased, but I think he can still get him here down Starkey straight and into the Fogarty S's again. Or even before that, into McLean's.
Shouldn't quite move it. I was really impressed by the move that Wilson was trying to make up against, I think it was Alsbrook against through to the S's, but he just carried way too much speed, and it kind of went back to bite him. And what a move that we were seeing there between Alsbrook. That almost made the move against Wilkinson, but Wilkinson still leads Alsbrook as to his best to defend from Wilson, and does push him a little bit off. That's perfectly fine. Through the chicane they're going to go, and again Wilson will have a bit of advantage, but look at that gap between Alsbrook and Wilkinson has improved to 1.2 seconds, and that could be enough of a breather where Wilkinson will need to be away from danger for the time being. Through to the wide parking of the track now, through to the Melbourne hairpin we're going to go. Wilson's best chance for an overtaking opportunity, and he takes it with both hands, and that'll be second place for Callum, and now Wilkinson will be all that will be left to prevent Wilson from taking another race win here at Donington.
Well, I wouldn't go that far just yet, because Alsbrook is still under half a second behind Wilson. Yellow flags in sector 2. Who is it who's dropping? It might be one of the back markers.
Ooh.
Oh,
no.
That's Rogers and Morel. Morel takes a Bollard, with him as well, and that looked very, very suspicious there. It looked like Rogers tried to take the corner without knowing Morel was there, and just sort of spun himself across Morel's front end. We're going to take a closer look at that right now, and not quite a good angle. Let's take a good look at that from
Moral's perspective, maybe?
Rogers.
Yeah,
Moral
Moral just
makes a
seems to
very
like
late lunch.
dive bombs. Yeah, he does, and that space was, I don't think anywhere there really. I think Moral maybe should have known a little bit about that. He had too much speed carried in. He wasn't even going to make the corner even either. So yeah, Moral, I think, the guilty party on that collision. So let's continue on through both cars. And we'll see how the stewards will react a bit to that.
He has let Rogers free though.
Yeah, he does. Wilson in through to the Melbourne Hairpin. This is going to be for the lead of the race. And more importantly, Wilson just sometimes overtaken Ellsberg just a lap prior. Makes it just as easy against Wilkinson. And through to the final corner, Kyle Wilkinson will start his first lap as the race leader. And it's up to Wilkinson and Ellsberg to see how they will respond. They both had done very, very well to home to P1 and P2 respectively. But now that gap is kind of narrowed down between Wilkinson and Ellsberg. It's now gone down to 9 tenths and it could be slowly climbing. But we can also see as well Jason Taylor, who's in P4 as well. He started back in near last at the moment, but he's now in a P4 and he could make it a BW 1-2. But he just needs to nitpick Ellsberg and Wilkinson one by one. The possibility for Jason is very, very possible, and especially for having such suffering a hardware issue, Lorenzo. It could be a very interesting story for him.
Yeah, absolutely. After getting second in the first race, missing the second race, and then coming back into the third race to get second yet again, I think it wouldn't cancel out absolutely the lack of points he scored in the second race, but it would lessen the impact that would have been had he missed the third race as well. As we see Johnny Sutton out of the track from Goddard and into the pit lane yet again in that Vauxhall. The Englishman struggling really, really hard in this third race, as we see Jason A. Taylor struggling to get past Kai Ellsberg, and I don't think that was the right move by Jason A. Taylor. I think he should have held back and allowed Kai Ellsberg to keep the position into Melbourne, because he sort of set Ellsberg up for failure into Melbourne. Tried to make a move into the Fogarty SS on the inside. Couldn't make it stick, and contact with Ellsberg made Ellsberg go wide, cut the Fogarty SS, have to slow down toward a penalty, which allowed Taylor to have a run up and overtake him into the Melbourne hairpin for third. It just doesn't seem like a fair thing for me that Taylor used that to gain a position, and I think if I was Kai Ellsberg after the race, I would definitely bring that up with the stewards.
Watching through to the twilight period of this race at the minute. Lap down at 14. We're just only for a handful of laps left to go. Wilson leads with about 2.8 seconds to Taylor getting past Ellsberg. He's only coming to about 9 tenths or so, but Taylor's coming a bit to that middle ground and will be catching up to Wilkinson very shortly, so we could be looking of course for a BMW 1-2 again, but time will certainly tell if Wilkinson if it will be just as hard as Taylor will have to do to Wilkinson as he did against Ellsberg the month prior. But we're looking further down behind Messina, who did a good recovery back in the P19. The collision that he's had with Smith is now on course to get P8. Smith is currently in the P5, so it's really just damage control that Carlo is doing here. But against Houston will be all that he can do against a fellow Cooper driver. Side by side, over to the Melbourne hairpin. You'll think Messina will be later on the brakes for into the wide area of the track. So I think we'll try to see if we can do any sort of switchback. But Messina denies him the opportunity to allow Carlo to get into P8. And Flynn, I think, almost tries to get his bumper insert through to the final quarter to maybe push him off, but couldn't quite get it done at the very moment we were seeing. Taylor, I think, is catching up to Wilkinson now. It's going over to 3 tenths, now down to 2 tenths as I approach over to the old hairpin, Lorenzo. The question is, if you were Taylor, what move would you make?
Ideally not the same one that he did on Ellsberg, otherwise there could be heavy consequences following the race. I think there's going to be some with the contact with Ellsberg as well, but this one going through McLean's is clean, staying true to the corner's name, and Jason A. Taylor is gonna have the inside line through Coppice and makes it work as well for him. But Dami is gonna go wider on exit down Starkey Straight. Doesn't seem to have impacted him much though. He's still slightly side by side with Chris Wilkinson. He's going to have the inside line for the Fogarty S's and is going to make that work for him. Jason A. Taylor up into second place with 4 laps to go now, going into 3 laps to go.
Smith, who kind of feels the charge coming up ahead, he's going to do his best to make a move onto Osbrook, but couldn't quite make the move pass through the Melbourne hairpin, but he is notoriously a bit quicker, and we'll see how the battle between Osbrook and Wilkinson does materialise, if Wilkinson will try to do his best, or if Osbrook will catch up similar to what we've seen previously in race 2. In that case, Smith could be maybe item a bit higher, maybe a P3 is potentially on the cards, but he can't really quite get comfortable in this position as well, because his Brewster is behind in 6th. He's about 8 tenths away, so again, Smith seeing himself as a bit of the middle ground here. This is behind with Dixon and Moore. This is the battle for P12, and a bit of contact there. Moore turns prematurely into Dixon, and Dixon will just retain P12 at the very minute, but Moore in the battle for the Japanese manufacturers will have the outside line heading into turn 1, just a bit on the pit road to maximise the corner entries he can. But Dixon holds on through to the apex to really deny Moore that opportunity. Still going to go downhill through to the first sector, and Perchner through to the old hairpin though. Moore, a little bit of a tack slapper, does manage to recover, but it will still be Dixon that leads for turn 12. So Moore trying to make his way, getting past through Dixon, but nothing can quite materialise there, Lorenzo.
And Moore, I think he's not going to stay in 13th, because there's a bit of a train forming behind them very late on in this race. Stu Rogers and Sam Cree aren't far from Morrill and Dixon. This is going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in that battle, with the 4 cars now very close to one another. Dave Brewster and Kai Alsbrook very unkindly shoved out the way. Kai Alsbrook by Alan Smith for 4th place, and Dave Brewster's going to capitalise on it as well and go up into 5th. So Alsbrook loses 2 positions in the span of a corner, and I think Alsbrook, if I was him at this point, I would be quite frankly very mad with how the other drivers on this will have been treating him in the closing stages of this race, especially Jason A. Taylor, the way he got past me, and Alan Smith now as well. I think the stewards are going to have a lot of complaints on their hands from Kyle Alsbrook after this one, and I think, with all due respect to the drivers who have wronged him here, they have wronged him indeed, and I think there should be penalties dished out here. But turning our attention a bit further back, as nothing is quite able to be done there.
No!
Kyle Alsbrook has saved it though.
He has.
Although he has lost the momentum he's had to be able to challenge Dave Brewster again for 5th place, and I think Carlsbrook, sadly, unless after the penalties are released, is going to stay in that 6th place. There's yellow flags in sector 3, we're not quite sure why. Hopefully it's nothing that impedes the drivers that are upcoming into the Melbourne hairpin, as it will be for position. And Callum Wilson is going to have a much lower gap in this one compared to the previous 2 races, only 8 seconds as it stands. But at the same time, I think that was the longest he'd been kept out of the lead in the 3rd races so far this year. So definitely something has to change, but yet again, nobody seems to be able to stop him. So I think the winner at the end of the day will stay the same.
Fortunately referred to the final lap of the race, and yeah, a great race that we've seen overhead though. Big contact there between Dixon. He hits the wall out from the straight, and that's big damage there for the Honda driver. He does continue on, very luckily so, to maybe, if he can finish with the line, score the last point. But he's kind of becoming into dire modes, because you can see Wickens coming from behind, could take that away from him. That was very abrupt. We see the replay from what has happened. Is this, oh goodness me, that's contact there with the Toyota driver, who has suffered momentum connections all time long, and it is, as Lorenzo mentioned, now Dakota is, and unfortunately has probably ruined Kieran's chances for getting a very higher place. We're now to the final lap of the race, and Callum Wilson is on course to record another race win. It's going to be his 24th race win this season, but we're still looking up ahead. Here we go. There's Wilson through to the final corner, and the gap is pretty sizable to that he had in race 1, even though he started all the way back in P12. Through to the last corner, and Callum Wilson's going to make it a Donington triple. Wilson through to the line, and it's going to be another race win added to his BTCC career this season. Wilkinson up into second place, Smith into third. That is Taylor and Alsbrecht. They have both had a bit of a coming up together. And look at this, it is going to be lots and lots of cramming there from one of the drivers up ahead. Oh goodness me, it's going to be a bit courage through to the line, and it is going to be Taylor that just about narrowly gets into P4. He was in P2 at one point, but then loses it out at the last minute, and that's absolutely unfortunate there for him. Alsbrecht into 5th, Brewster into 5th, and that meant that Smith gets promoted into 3rd. And we're looking further down behind. This is the battle between Rogers, Cree, and Cherzan through to the final corner. No, they're going to be a bit of a spin though between these two, and that will allow Cree to go round through to the final corner. Is it going to be enough for P12 for Cree? I think it might be. No, it's not. He hits the wall, massively hits the wall, loses his spoiler, and that will mean that Cherzan that will get 12th, Rogers 13th, and Cree with another internet issue it has impacted another race as well.
He's lost 6. He's lost 14th and 15th as well.
Points. He loses points as a result from that, including Dixon, who just had a collision with him aforementioned. So very unfortunate for Cree, who could have got a 12, but as a result loses out on the points completely altogether. So this is what happened between Taylor. He was leading ahead in second place. Is this lap car coming up ahead? Oh my goodness me! Oh dear, that's Wilkinson, I think it is, that just loses it out, so he's briefly ahead.
No, I think that's a lapped car. I think that was a lapped car. Might have been Johnny.
Oh, it was a lapped car. Oh, it was. Oh dear. So that's what happened and what caused Taylor to lose out on such immense thing. And you can already see he's crabbing, so he's effectively taken the car straight to the finish line. And again, it's just already harder to defend from Brewster behind. So he's very, very lucky that he's managed to, kept it to the finishing line as much as he possibly can. But yeah, that's just hard luck, would you say, Lorenzo, to just be caught out by that lapped car, would you say?
It's absolutely unfortunate luck, but I mean, I think the driving standards in this third race sadly dwindled to the lowest point we've seen so far this season. And I personally hate to see it. I think everyone does, but I don't think in the 21 races we've had this year, over the 7 rounds, that the driving has been this bad at any point, especially in the closing stages of the race. But after all of that, is Callum Wilson in first place yet again, 21 in a row. Chris Wilkerson in second, Alan Smith in third, Jason A. Taylor fourth, Kai Alsbrook in 5th, Dave Brewster 6th, Carlo Messina 7th, Arthur Drobnik 8th, Flynn Hewson in 9th, Tom Brunel in 10th. In P11 it is Marcin Morrill, Milos Cherzan 12th, Stu Rogers 13th, Kieran Dixon 14th, Doug Wickens 15th, Sam Cree 16th, Carl Struhal, the first of the lapped cars, in 17th, Daniel Irvin 18th, Johnny Sutton 19th, and Pedro Sá, the sole DNF in this entire round. And unfortunate for I'm still not quite sure whether he's Portuguese or not, but nevertheless, unfortunate to see him DNF.
Yeah, that's been us here for the 4 races. Again, we'll be back in for the next round. The Croft Circuit will host through round 8 of the championship, but as Tom politely mentions to us in our DMs, I think you've mentioned as well, Lorenzo, earlier in the chat, we've got a couple of people willing to do interviews. I think we'll happily bring on through our first person in Smith, who's I think now the front wheel drive championship leader.
Welcome in. Hello.
Hey, hello.
Hello, Smith.
Hello.
Hey, Smith. So a great couple of races for yourself in your end, and your outperformance from your championship rival means that you inherit the championship lead with a couple of rounds to go. So big congratulations for it. How did you feel in terms of pulling it off?
Oh no, the car was quick. The car was very quick today, which really helped. It definitely definitely worked with all the setup work I've been doing. It's yeah, very happy. Very happy to come away from it. Shame to come together with Carlo, but it's one of those. You go 3 wide on the exit of turn 1. I'm in the middle. I can't give any more space. But nah, definitely again saving tires, just keeping the pace there, but not abusing the tires. So I had something to fight Carlo at the end because he was always going to catch up. With the way that car goes, it is rapid in a straight line. So he was always going to catch near the end when my car started fading away. So keeping as much of the tyre there was absolutely critical. And then the last race was just absolutely hammer and tong, trying to work my way through the field, try and get up to that. Another couple laps, and I might have been able to battle it out with Wilkinson, but he was up and away.
Lorenzo, any questions?
Yeah, just one, obviously, Alan. Congratulations on the results today. I did ask you following Knockhill whether you think you can re-overtake Carl Messina in that front-wheel drive championship at Donington, and you seem to have done so. Do you think you can keep that lead now going into the next round?
We'll see. I know Silverstone's going to come up, and that is going to be something because that straight line speed on the Cupra is going to absolutely rocket it at that circuit. And I am not the best at the National. That is probably my biggest bogey circuit on this calendar. So we'll see.
Thanks very much for your time. And again, from me and Lorenzo, massive congratulations on the performance that you've done in this race. And well done on taking the front wheel championship lead in the BTCC. From me and from Lorenzo, all the best luck in Croft in next round.
All right. No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I'll let you lead the interviews next.
Okay, I think next I do see Kai Alsbrook and Flynn Hewson ready for an interview. However, I do see Carlo Messina in a different call, so I do just want to see whether he would like an interview before I give right away to either of them. But I just want to check while we get an answer from Carlo Messina whether the standings have been updated yet, and they haven't just yet, but I do think they should be by the end of the interviews as they were at Knockhill. And we do have confirmation that Carlo Messina does not want an interview, so it will be Kai Alsbrook next for an interview. Let's just see whether he is ready for one. And he is, so let's get Kai Alsbrook up with us if Discord decides to work. There we go. As we're joined by Kai Alsbrook.
Hello.
Oh, I can hear myself.
Sorry.
Right then. No, I can still hear myself. Oh well, it's whatever. Amir, do you want to take it away?
I think you mentioned it was you said it's his debut, right, Marta?
It is, yeah. At least to my
Yeah,
knowledge.
debut in your BTCC race, and I must say it was very impressive for you to kind of get into a front wheel drive car and hold to very good pace. Do you have experience with the BTCC touring cars before prior to entering
Yes.
it?
Yeah. So I'm in 2 championships currently. So VMO's TC UK and then the BVTCC. So it's pretty much my first year doing all of this, and then I just thought, why not try this and see how it differs from the other series.
there been any difference between the leagues that you've been participating in, FRL compared to something like VMO?
Well, yeah. Well, this has been quite competitive, and the difference between cars is quite significant between the BMWs and the front wheel drive cars. So it's quite difficult holding them off compared to another series where you'd be able to just hang on a little bit and try hold them off. But this one, you don't really have a chance against the BMWs, the too speedy.
And you've proven on your debut immediately that you are able to compete with some of the drivers who have been in this league from the start of the season, such as Carl Messina, Alan Smith, and you're able to battle them quite well. So do you think, obviously quite late for you to join with now 3 rounds left to go following this one to get involved in the championship fight, but do you think if you can carry on these performances you can possibly break into the top 5 of the front wheel drive standings?
I think, yeah, to be honest, I mean, we've already showed that we've got good pace up the front, and you can hold off some of the rear wheel drive cars. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible to get up there and potentially get a group win for the front wheel drive.
Any questions from yourself, Amir?
I've been very impressed, Kai, for what you did front with your paces as well. I think you were definitely stand out amongst the debutants. Do you have any aspirations for yourself that you would attend through any of your future rounds? Like next one's in Croft, and we got Silverstone and Brands Hatch as our final few rounds.
Well, I mean, I think a win is very possible. To be fair, obviously, I was in the lead of that race for quite a while. I felt like if we got a little bit more of a gap, I feel like we've been able to hold off and get the win, but it's going to be very difficult. So pretty much a win is what I'm really hoping for in the next few rounds.
So you are challenging Callum Wilson though, because he has won the past 21 races in a row.
Yeah, I mean that's the only guy who can I feel like take it off me, to be honest, because I mean you saw that we was up there until Callum came along and took it off me and Wilkinson, really.
Yeah, but you two put on an amazing show, yourself and Wilkinson, in those battles in the first 2 races. Have you two raced each other before? Do you two know each other from other leagues, or is this your first foray against one another?
No, this is literally the first I've actually seen of him, but I mean, considering what we did in that race, I'm actually excited to race with him more, to be honest.
That is lovely to hear. Any more questions from yourself, Amir?
No, I don't have any more questions.
Well, in that case, I think we're gonna let Kai go on his merry way, because I do hear, I think that is his cat begging for attention, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, don't want to get in between a man and his pet. So, Kai, thank you very much for joining us today on track and here in the interview booth for an interview. And hopefully we do see you for the remaining 3 rounds in the season, and I do wish you the best of luck if that's the case.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
That was Kai Alsbrook, meaning we have one more person left for the interviews. Let's see whether Flynn Hewson is ready for his interview. And he is, so let's get Flynn Hewson up into the interview booth with us. Flynn, can you hear us? Hello? Hello, Flynn Hewson.
I can hear you, but you're a little bit delayed because I'm having to listen off the live stream.
Oh, right. So, Yeah, I think that's the first time we've had that. Flynn, if I am not mistaken, this is your... Actually, no, sorry, apologies. This is not your debut in this series, but I think this is your best pairing of results to date. So following this round here at Donington, how do you feel about the 3 races that you partook in?
I mean, comparing to the other 3 rounds I've done, Brands Indy, Thruxton and Alton, I think I was quite confident coming into this one. I spent a lot of time on my setup and a lot of time practicing and felt really confident and felt I had a grip of the car. Came into the weekend or the evening even, and put it in 10th, and I was chuffed to bits really. I thought, maybe this will actually be a round where I can do well. And race 1 was all right. I made a couple of my own mistakes. My rear tyres were absolutely skyrocketing through the roof in temps. Slid off a couple of times and just slipped down to 13th. And then coming into race 2 in the warm up, my internet decided that I wasn't going to be able to partake. And then obviously I wasn't allowed back in the race. So I sat out race 2, which I was a bit bummed off for, because I thought, I can really crawl myself back up from that P13, probably a top 10 maybe, to get a good reverse grid. But had to sit that one out. And then race 3, I came all the way from the back, and I think I finished in 9th in the end. And I was really happy. I sort of capitalised off of others' mistakes, especially at the start. A lot of people going off all over the shop, and brought myself up quite high. Chased down various people, and then I pulled ahead of Artur Drobnik on the last lap, and going down to the back straight, sort of through McLean's. And and then my shifter said no, so I was stuck in 3rd for a little bit, and he just drove straight past me, and that was it for me. I crawled back home on 9th.
Yeah, so definitely, as you said, your most comfortable round so far, the round where you felt most competitive. Obviously, unfortunate you had to miss the second race because of internet issues, but the 2 races that you did fairly well, and I think that 9th place that you actually, no, apologies, you did get a 6th place at the round in Alton, so not your best race result, but definitely overall arguably your best round on paper.
Yeah, I think definitely my best drive. Alton Park, I got a good reverse grid spot, started on pole, and it was basically just a waiting game before I dropped back. So in my mind, actually, this is my best result, because I think Alton Park was a bit of a fluke round, really. Just got lucky with the reverse grid, and then couldn't do anything about it. Alton Park, I swapped cars from the Corolla to the Cupra for Thruxton, but I was in the Corolla for Alton Park, and I just wasn't comfortable at all. So the 6th was my best result across the season, but in reality, it was just through pure luck. There was no skill in that one. I feel this one I really earned, coming from, I think, 19th or 20th on the grid in race 3, all the way back down to 9th in the end. So I'm more happy with this position than I was at Alton.
And you said that obviously this round you felt very comfortable in with the car. Would you say that the following 3 rounds there could be a case where it's going to be the same, with obviously Croft, Silverstone National and Brands Hatch GP coming up in the next 3 rounds, the last 3 rounds as well?
Yeah, I definitely feel more confident these last 2 rounds, Thruxton and this one we've just had now. Donington, I felt more comfortable in the car. Croft, I've never actually really driven. I think I've done a couple of sighting laps around there before, with no real goal or achievement out of that. Croft will be a learning curve. I can't comment on that one. I don't know the circuit, so I think half of it is the circuit, because Alton Park I've never really driven before, and I wasn't confident there, and Brands Indy I've never really driven, and I wasn't confident there. Thruxton and Donington I've driven quite a lot. That's why I felt I was more confident. And maybe the car change had some opinion in that. Looking to Silverstone that's a track I've driven quite a lot in my time in the sim, and I think if I can get the car set up good, then I can really put myself onto that. Brands Hatch at the end of the season, I'm not quite sure about, because my setup for the Indy wasn't very great. So I'm going to have to try and build on that, and just hope that the combination of my setup and the car will really benefit me. So I can hopefully, I'm looking at the points standing in front of me now, and I can. I think a top 10 finish this season is still technically feasible if I can really apply myself in these next 3 rounds.
Any questions by yourself, Amir?
You've stolen all the questions I want to ask to Flynn.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Just all the best luck for the next race, Flynn. And congratulations on your performance in this race.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us today, Flynn. All right, then. That was a very good round, in my opinion, obviously with some faltering in driving standards towards the end of the third race there. But overall, I think that was an amazing round. Not an exaggeration. Very, very good battling all around. Some unfortunate accidents, especially in that third race. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think, Amir.
Good race. A bit cleaner than what I anticipated, especially considering Donington is so narrow. But I think oftentimes, like, Donington in the national layout is so narrow, which is why it helps that the international layout has the extensions are all completely extended. We did see that being properly utilized with a lot of good overtaking opportunities into the final 2 hairpins of the circuit. And this was surely going as one of the most memorable Formula Racing League BTCC classics that we've had in store, especially from the one in season. But if anything, that just kind of brings up the anticipation even more. As feel free to join us in 2 weeks' time, where on the 8th of September, we'll be going over to the Croft Circuit for the first and last time, which we will see if the championship will continue to expand or decrease in the front-wheel drive side. And if Wilson will pick up 3 more race wins to be one step closer and potentially maybe even grab the championship trophy. But until then, thanks very much to Remco De Zeo for broadcast directing. He's done very well, even for the lag issues on his end. Big thanks to Remco, regardless. He was phenomenal. And thanks as well, Lorenzo, for joining alongside us once again. We'll see you over at the Croft Circuit. But until then, well, it's goodbye from us at Donington. See you later.
Bye to all.